Hello everyone, welcome back. I want to talk to you guys today about this new approach that the Democrats are taking towards the 2024 election, and that is to put Kamala Harris in front of this anti-gun campaign. Okay, so a lot of people have been talking about Kamala leading this anti-gun campaign, and they have been, I think, severely underestimating her. Okay, severely underestimating her. A lot of people are looking at the border situation, saying, "Hey, Kamala was in charge of that, and look what a disaster the border is." You guys gotta understand that to Democrats is a complete success. Kamala has done exactly what the Democrats have wanted her to do. She's basically opened up the borders and let everybody in. So that is a success to Democrats. Okay, so different perception here. Okay, with regards to this gun control campaign that the Democrats are going to try and push, you gotta look at this from a strategic perspective. Okay, strategically, okay, and this is going to be a focal point. This is going to probably be their top issue for the 2024 election. First of all, Democrats have failed in almost all other economic, domestic, foreign policies. So it's kind of like default, okay, what can they talk about? So they have specifically picked gun control because they know that Republicans are very weak on gun rights. Okay, so think about this for a minute. Okay, it makes sense for Democrats to put all of their efforts into pushing gun control, knowing how weak Republicans are on gun rights. Okay, so regardless of whether the presidential candidate is Trump, DeSantis, or some other Republican, the best you'll hear any of these Republicans talk when they talk about the Second Amendment is they'll say, yeah, it's a fundamental right. You know, American citizens are entitled to their right to bear arms, and that's usually as far as they'll go. So Republicans are very weak on gun rights. Okay, so it makes sense for Democrats to focus on this area of weakness. Okay, so understand the strategy here. Okay, and I think like looking at this from the outside, right? This is a brilliant strategy, right? They're targeting Republicans where they are the weakest, which is on gun rights. Okay, so you know, most people that will tell you that both Trump, DeSantis, pretty much all Republicans, with the exception of those that are like in the Freedom Caucus, they're all very weak on gun rights. Okay, so Republicans basically need to come up with a game plan to deal with this. Okay, they're going to have to retrain themselves. They're going to have to deal directly with what is the Second Amendment, why does it exist. They need to come to terms, right, and accept the reality that the reason that the Second Amendment was there, or was put there, is because the framers had just finished overthrowing a tyranny, and they wanted to put a mechanism in place to deal with another tyranny should one ever arise in the future. Okay, so they need to deal with that directly, to the point. Now, Republicans have been quick to point out how Democrats have weaponized federal bureaucracies such as the IRS, ATF, FBI. Okay, they've gone as far as to acknowledge that these federal bureaucracies have been weaponized, and it's not just those three; they all have. Okay, at every level, every single one of them, in ways that we can't even see yet. Okay, they've all been weaponized. Okay, they all, including the military. Okay, the military pretty much works for the Democrat Party. The top leadership of the military is Democrat. You know, it's basically pro-Democrat Party. Okay, so the Republicans need to get straight to the point and make everybody understand that Democrats have weaponized the federal bureaucracies, and there's no reason to think that they will stop there. There's no reason to think that unless they manage to stop this politically, this is going to continue to escalate, and the Democrats will continue to further weaponize and further use these federal bureaucracies to basically oppose who they perceive as their political enemy. Okay, so they need to get straight to the point and say, hey, listen, the reason for the Second Amendment is so that the people can oppose these weaponized government bureaucracies that are developing. Okay, maybe they're not at that point yet, but they will be 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Given the rate of progression, that's the direction that it's going in. Okay, this government is heading in the direction of tyranny. At this point, we can probably still turn it around politically, okay, but it's going to reach a tipping point at some point where there is no turning around. So Republicans need to address this. They need to be out front with this. They need to get comfortable with talking about this, which is not something that they're comfortable doing. Republicans are not comfortable saying that the purpose of the Second Amendment is so the people can kill tyrants and dictators should they ever arise. Okay, so Democrats know that Republicans are not comfortable with this, so again, they're targeting the area that they know that Republicans are weak in. Okay, other issue that's going to come up is the issue of AR-15s. They're going to say, hey, they need to be banned. Republicans are very uncomfortable talking about AR-15s. They'll usually defer to the Supreme Court. They'll talk in very broad terms. There's two ways to approach this, right? And they should approach it from both directions. From the one direction is that individual people, families need AR-15s so that they can protect themselves from the leftist socialist mobs that we saw back in like 2020 going into 2021. Okay, police were not there to protect the people, and these were large mobs, so pistols really wouldn't be adequate for most of those types of situations. They needed firearms so that they could actually protect themselves in their homes against these mobs. Okay, you know, picture a mob of like 50 people breaking into your house. You're not gonna, a small revolver is going to be completely inadequate for defending yourself against that. Okay, so that's the one point of the AR-15 that they need to get comfortable talking about, and the other point is, again, the AR-15 is one of the best rifles for dealing with dictatorships and tyrannies. Okay, the people should have the same arms that the military has, so that if the military, the government ever turns tyrannical, the people are able to push back it. Now, of course, you're going to have the Democrats that are going to come out and they're going to say, well, how are you going to fight against the tanks and the airplanes and the nukes and all those things, right? They're going to nuke us, basically. Well, basically, if they're going to nuke us, I mean, they're going to nuke themselves, because we're living right next to them. Okay, so again, this is something that Republicans need to get very comfortable talking about. They need to practice. Okay, they need to practice. To figure out, how they're going to be most comfortable talking about this. Because again, they're not all going to be able to talk exactly the way that I'm talking. But within their comfort zone, they need to address these issues. Now, one possible solution is whoever wins the Republican nomination, I would highly recommend that they try and pick somebody out of, let's say, the Freedom Caucus, somebody that really believes in the Second Amendment. Okay, so that they can do the talking for them with regards to that, right? Because regardless how much training and practice and trying to re-educate himself, somebody like Trump or DeSantis do, they're not going to be 100% pro-gun rights. Okay, I mean, just to give you an example, the red flag laws, right? That's one of the things that the Democrats are going to come out and try to push for, red flag laws. Okay, well, again, Republicans need to get very comfortable with the point that, you know, you can't take people's rights away, you know, without due process. Okay. Now, further going beyond that, okay, again, going back to the Democrats weaponizing the bureaucracies, you know, basically framing, you know, if you look at all the fraud that the FBI committed as far as trying to entrap people, that's a very good example, okay, of why, you know, somebody that is just merely convicted, you know, they shouldn't lose their rights, because we have seen ample example of how the justice system is abused. I mean, just look at Matt Hoover and Justin Irving, you know, with regards to the auto key card, right? And what an abuse of the justice system that is. Nobody was hurt. You know, there were these auto key cards, which was basically just a piece of metal with a drawing on it, and you had to basically cut along the lines. And if you did it in a certain way, you know, perhaps you can make an auto sear. When the ATF did it, they had to actually cut outside their lines, and they still managed, you know, the government still managed to get a conviction for something like that. So, and those two guys are facing something like 10 years in prison for a situation where nobody was hurt. You couldn't actually take the product that they were selling, which they were selling as a novelty, right? And just cut along the lines, and it wouldn't function that, you know, as the government was saying, and yet they still managed to get a conviction. So that's a good example of how the justice system is broken. Okay, so just because somebody has been convicted of a felony, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a gun. Okay, you know, in fact, one of the things I tell people is that, you know, if you're safe enough to be on the street, you're safe enough to own a gun. Okay, you know, if somebody is so dangerous that they shouldn't own a gun, they probably shouldn't be on the street. If that's the case, hey, get them convicted, you know, and then we'll deal with, you know, from that basis, you know, keep them locked up. I mean, if there's somebody that goes around, you know, with a chainsaw sawing up people, I mean, yeah, obviously, you know, keep them in jail, right? But at the point where you let them out of jail, obviously they're not that dangerous. Okay, so again, these are points that Republicans need to get very comfortable dealing with. Democrats know that Republicans are not comfortable dealing with this, so this is why this is going to be like this is going to be like the spear point of their 2024 campaign, right? You know, it makes tactical sense to approach this campaign from a direction that they know that the Republicans are not comfortable with. Okay, so please do not underestimate Biden and Harris. You know, they already won once. I don't care how they won, whether it was cheating or whatnot. The fact is that they're in the White House, okay? So do not underestimate them. Do not underestimate Kamala, especially because she has been 100% successful at the southern border, accomplishing the goals of the Democrat Party, which is keeping the border open and letting all the illegals into the country. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all soon. Hey everyone, something else I wanted to quickly add. A lot of times people will question, why should we keep voting for Republicans if they're so weak on gun rights? Okay, so I look at this from the perspective of, let's take a look at the Democrat Party. Okay, the Democrat Party is composed of these leftist socialists and these corporate moderate Democrats who combine their votes so that they can continually win elections. Okay, so it would be great if there was a socialist party out there so we could split their vote, right? So it would be great if all the socialist leftists would vote in one party and all the moderate corporate Democrats would vote for the other party, right? And then that way the conservative constitutionalists would always win, okay? But Democrats are too smart for that, okay? So despite the fact that Democrat policies are idiotic, their campaign strategies are very well thought out. That's why they keep winning elections, okay? They got good election strategy. They combine their votes. So same thing applies on the constitutionalist conservative side. If we want to win elections, we have to combine our votes. If we don't, the Democrats win, okay? So as much as I like lots of things that the Libertarian Party stands for, if I vote for them, I am basically handing my vote to Democrats, okay? So something for you guys to think about. I'll talk to you all soon.